guys, so I've decided to make this video public. I was going to make it for Patreon, but decided to go ahead and just make a public video. And I've re-recorded it a few times, and I've been rambling, but I'm going to go with that. So I will ramble as we do this. I'm also outside, so you might hear other people walking, talking, cicadas. Anyway, I wanted to do a video on spiritual experiences, and I haven't, and I'm not sure why, but I really wanted to be in the right headspace for it, and I think this is probably a right headspace for it. So I just left the gym, and it's dusk. But as I was leaving and walking out of the gym, the sky, with its stormy clouds rolling in, I felt deeply like it had a message for me, which of course I know is nonsense. But I had that feeling anyway. Logically, I know it's nonsense, but I still had that feeling. And looking at the sky, I still feel like that. I can't really explain it. It's like when your emotions don't agree with your rational brain. I think anyone who has any sort of issues with I don't know, mental illness, even stuff like just anxiety disorder, not something that people would associate with like hallucinations, but even with just anxiety disorder, for example, you logically know you're not supposed to be panicking, but physically you feel like panicking. It's like a physical sensation almost of this has meaning, but a knowledge that it doesn't. So it's a very strange feeling. So what caused this? In this particular case, it was sort of a perfect storm of different things. The first of which was this sort of low-grade migraine that I've had kind of buzzing around since last night. Now I know a lot of people, they think migraines are just head pain or really bad headaches, and yeah, they're really bad head pain, like having a brain freeze for hours, But that's not always what they are. They might include that, but they might not. There's other symptoms. There's things like shaking, vomiting, diarrhea, just sleepiness where you just kind of conk out. But in this case, what's relevant to this video is it affects how you think. So that's kind of why the rambling kept happening as I was re-recording these. It's really hard to kind of keep track of what I'm doing. Normally it's not a big deal. Like at work, there's a lot of stuff that's like pre-rehearsed, like it's different. But having to make a video just sort of off the cuff, not the best. The other issue is I took my normal migraine medication on an empty stomach. I haven't eaten all day. It's like 7 or 8 p.m. and I took a pre-workout, and it's weird, like every time I turn my head, I'm getting these like thumping feelings of electricity, but also like a disoriented or shaky kind of feeling. So that's the other reason I'm not heading home right away, is because I need to take a moment for my body to sort of calm the fuck down. So all of that being said, your brain can make mistakes. And a lot of people have asked me, were you ever Christian? Or they'll make statements like, well, maybe you were just a Christian in name, because anyone who's felt the Holy Spirit or had spiritual experiences would know better. And when I tell them, no, I've had all those things that I thought were the Holy Spirit, I genuinely believed I had spiritual experiences, then the question becomes, well, what made you think they weren't spiritual experiences? Or why did you think they were, but now you think they're not? And so this is sort of what I've learned. So first of all, there's a lot of similarities in inducing a spiritual experience, like a meditative, spiritual, transformative kind of thing that people want to induce. And that includes rhythmic stuff, rhythmic dancing, rhythmic movement, rhythmics, like thumping or drumming. So a lot of that you'll find in people that are trying to like induce spiritual experiences of any religion. Shamanism, whirling dervishes would be an example in Islam of a movement type of thing. But the other thing to also consider is changing your mental state physically. And I'm really upset because somebody's walking by with music playing loudly instead of in the headphones. So we'll just take a break for a second because I am not able to re-record this. Thanks a lot. I mean, headphones are not that expensive. Anyway, so what do I mean by changing your physical brain state? One of the things that you'll notice a lot for different religions is fasting. Things too, like a walkabout with Aboriginal Australians, or like spirit quests, any type of like quest or journey where you're malnourished. You're either not supposed to eat, or you can only eat what you can forage, and that's not a whole bunch. In some cases, you're supposed to be doing it in a place where you're not even able to access a lot of water, you know. That changes how you think. I mean, for me, I ate a bit today. Like, I didn't even go on a full quote-unquote food fast, you know what I mean? But it's 8 p.m. and with a little, you know, extra energy plus low-grade migraine and my medication for it, I'm thinking the sky's talking to me. Do you know what I'm saying? And if I were of the opinion that the universe or God or spirits or ghosts or angels or demons or whatever had messages that they were trying to communicate to me looking at the sky right now would be a justification for that. It would be evidence that I would feel that, well, of course, that they're trying to contact me because I feel it impressed upon me, you know. And I think that's what we have to sort of consider. If you're a person watching this and you believe in spiritual experiences, ask yourself, was I under the influence of myself? You don't have to, when we were talking about hallucinations and spiritual experiences, people of course automatically think of ayahuasca or peyote or something like that, some kind of drug-induced spiritual experience. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can totally experience auditory and visual hallucinations just because you're hungry. You didn't get enough sleep last night. You're really thirsty. You just haven't been drinking properly. You're focusing too hard on something. You had too much caffeine. So I guess, you know, caffeine's a drug technically, but we don't typically consider it to be a hallucinatory drug, right? Any of those things can induce these spiritual experiences, you know. You have to consider, am I under the influence of myself? With just those two things, I didn't eat enough today, and I had a lot of you know, upper kind of energy drink stuff. That by itself put an impression upon my emotional self, I don't know how to really describe it, that the sky has meaning and a message for me. Just that. This is not anything out of the ordinary. This is not anything particularly profound. I wasn't seeking it, you know. So imagine even more so if you are a deeply religious person, deeply seeking this out. And that's why a lot of atheists will say, well, it's just confirmation bias, or you're just cherry picking, or, you know, so on and so forth. And so if you're a religious person listening to this, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the fact that anything can set off this sort of altered state of thinking and perception. And if you're religious, you feel that everything that's going on in your head that's just caused by too much caffeine or not enough food or not enough sleep, suddenly that becomes a spiritual experience. Suddenly that becomes the Holy Spirit. Now imagine if you were seeking that, if you woke up late for church and you went to church looking to be slain in the Spirit, as Pentecostals say, looking to be touched by the Holy Spirit, looking for a message from Allah. You just didn't get enough food that day. It's Ramadan, you're fasting until sundown. And you go to pray, already seeking that, with something as simple as, I didn't eat enough this morning. You're already in a brain state that is not entirely working at full capacity. And then on top of that, you go seek out meaning. Of course you're going to have a spiritual experience, you know? Except it's not spiritual, it's not profound, it's just, you didn't eat enough that morning. You know what I mean? So that's what people are talking about in terms of you know, cherry picking or confirmation bias. I think I wouldn't necessarily call it that. I think I would just call it not being aware that your brain, as amazing as it is and as capable as it is, your brain is also very easily fooled, you know? And if you're not aware of this stuff, it can be very jarring. Even if you are aware of this stuff, it still can be very jarring. Having migraines has given me a lot of sensory experiences that aren't real. And that's a really weird thing to have to experience. So what do I do in those cases? I ask somebody else, are we in the middle of an earthquake, or does my body just feel like it's shaking violently? And they say, oh, well, I don't feel anything. It must be your perception. Okay, thanks. Because obviously I have to do something differently. If we are having, you know, a level 8 on the Richter scale earthquake, I have to do something. I have to, you know, hide under my desk or what have you. If it's just me feeling like I'm shaking, I don't have to do anything different, you know? So I always want to ask for confirmation because I can't trust my own body, my own brain, my own perception. I know that. And that's why we have to look outside of ourselves. We're having an experience that doesn't really line up with what we expect from reality, or an experience that we think might be real, but we're not able to verify it by ourselves. We would want to ask somebody else, or we would want to try to have that again, or try to induce that again. This is why the spiritual experience in and of itself is not evidence of anything spiritual, doesn't define what spiritual is, and this is why atheists can't take it as evidence. I think I've covered everything I want to cover with this, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop the video now because I feel like I'll be just rambling. So if you guys have questions, comments, feel free to throw them in the comment section below. But yeah, as always, thanks for listening.